All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Slay at Home Mom team training, where we're going to go over chapter 4 of Getting Over Your Darn Self. Have a couple littles on the line right now, so we will edit the verbiage of the chapter. But this chapter is on your story, and I think it's very important to understand that your story and your why or your B are completely two different things. So Pam talked about your story or your why, and today we're talking about your story and how that's going to impact you in your business. So there's several elements of your story when you're going through rewriting yourself. If you're doing it yourself, if you're doing it with your upline, if you're doing it with your downline, it's very simple. And the book breaks it down to 4 different areas. But the way I've learned it, that Christy has taught it with me, it kind of puts those into 2 different sections. So what was your life like before Juice Plus? And what was your life like after Juice Plus? But going off this book, in that before, you talk about who you are, where you've been, and make sure that it's the Cliff Note version. We don't need to know, where you were born, every station you PCS to along the way, like just the basic who you are, where you've been. Like, my name's Ashley Dwyer. I'm currently living in North Carolina with my husband and 5-year-old son. We're both active duty military, and I've served in the Army for the last almost 18 years. So, brief introduction of yourself. Number 2, in life before, is what happened in your life to cause you to look for something more. So what was your pain? Why were you open to the possibility of this business or even product? So to break that down for me, on my second deployment to Iraq, I was injured and came home with and ended up having a series of surgeries that required me to learn how to walk again unassisted, and years of rehab that I will be in for the rest of my life. I was exhausted, miserable, and in pain every day. And I didn't have any life left in me at the end of my work day. And sometimes I struggled just to get to the end of my work day. So that's point 1 and 2 of your story formula of what life was like before. Then you move on to what was life like after Juice Plus. So going off of chapter 4 in the book, it's how you heard about this company and why you had to be a part of it. So I stumbled upon this product because I simply saw words gluten-free on the bag, the side of a shake. And I found out there were gummies too. And I'm kind of a kid at heart, where I was still eating Flintstone vitamins because I don't like to take pills. So I went all in. I got the shakes, I got the gummies, but I went through that first shipment of gummies, which I later learned was a 4-month supply. I went through it in less than 30 days. And I felt like I was back in my 20s again, before all of the surgeries. So I knew I needed to be a part of this movement because it had given me my life back. Part 4 of the story training is, what is it doing for you or going to do for you? So how is this business or product going to change your future? What is it doing for you right now? So for me, it gave me my life back, reduced my inflammation, and provided an amazing community of awesome people, kind of like you, that encourage and support me and my goals. I couldn't imagine spending one more day in the Army, so I'm getting out and I'm doing this full time. So when you put it all together, parts 1, 2, 3, and 4, before Juice Plus, after Juice Plus, this is what it will sound like. Hi, my name is Ashley Dwyer Skates, and I'm currently living in North Carolina with my husband and 5-year-old son. We're both active duty military, and I have served in the Army for the last 18 years. But on my second deployment to Iraq, I was injured and came home to a series of surgeries that required me to learn how to walk again unassisted, and years of rehab that I will be in for the rest of my life. I was exhausted, miserable, and in pain every single day. And I didn't have any life left in me at the end of the workday. And sometimes I struggled just to get that far. But I stumbled across this product because I saw the words gluten-free on the side of a bag and found out there were gummies too. So I jumped all in. I went through that 4-month supply in less than 30 days, and I felt like I was back in my 20s before I had all of the surgeries. And I knew that I needed to be a part of this movement in more ways than one. On my, it gave me my life back. It reduced my inflammation and provided an amazing community of awesome people, kind of like you, that encouraged and supported me in my goals. I couldn't imagine spending one more day in the Army, so I am getting out and I'm going to do this full time. So you want it to be 45 seconds to 1 minute long. And if you are struggling with, like, if your story is hard, like if you feel like it's surface level, or you don't want to tell your story, there's a reason behind that. So I wanted to share a little bit of this, but like back when I first started this business and no idea what I was doing, the person that brought me into this business, I don't know that she really knew what she was doing. And I was frustrated and I thought I was sharing my story. And it really took me sitting down with Christy and her asking me these questions. And like, as she asked me these questions, I was super uncomfortable. Like, nobody wants to hear about my struggles. Nobody wants to hear about my pain. I'm this bad unvulnerable Army girl who wears armor all day. Like, nobody gets to see that side of me. I'm not going to be vulnerable. But it really took like sharing, and it did not happen overnight, but I would take little pieces and I would open up just a little bit more each time. And the more and more I shared, the more and more people would lean in to listen. And eventually it became easier to share that stuff. And it helped me in my business, but most of all, it helped me heal and overcome some of this stuff because I was sharing it with people. And people were saying, you know, maybe they didn't have my exact experience, but they were like, hey, I've struggled and suffered with pain and inflammation and injuries too. I've been there too, you know? And so it was able to help me and help them. So if your story is hard for you to share and you are uncomfortable sharing it, just stick with it because you're about to be on the verge of something amazing. So moving on, there's some quick do's and don'ts about your story. You do not want to say something in your story that is not duplicatable. So you do not want to say like, Juice Plus has 37 research studies, and I read every single one of them, took notes, and then verified it before I started my business, because you don't want people to think that they have to do that too. And that's definitely not a way to fast track somebody if you're going to put in their head that they might want to read all of our clinical studies before they start their business. You do want to talk about what just made sense to you. So for me, it just made sense that I do this business because I was eating 4 months of gummies in 30 days. So make pretty good money after 18 years in the military, but not enough to eat a 4-month supply every month. So talk about what made sense to you. Do not disclose dollar amounts of earnings. And this is actually prohibited by the Direct Selling Association, but do talk about what you're doing with your money and what this opportunity has afforded your family. Like, we just went to the Outer Banks on a whim this last weekend. We literally got our hotel 2 days ahead of time. It was not planned, but everything we did on that, I was able to do that because we have this additional money. Some other ways you might be spending your money, like your kids are in more extracurricular activities because you have this side gig that's able to pay for them. So it's not coming out of your daily budget. Do not start with your product story unless you're kind of pigeonholed into a corner to do that. Always start with your business story. And the reason you want to always lead with your business story is because you can't talk, like if you're talking to somebody and they're like, I eat, fruits and vegetables all day, every day. I'm constantly eating a vegetable. I don't need this silly product. Well, you can't be like, oh, well, you don't need this silly product, then you should really join my business selling this silly product. There's nowhere to go from that. If they're not into the product, they're probably not going to be into the business selling the product. Okay. But if you share that within the business and everything that it's doing for you, and they're not into the business right now, maybe they're too busy, whatever it may be, you can always fall back on the product. So it always leaves you in for the product. So lead with the business first. So your story, if you have it nailed down, you think it's great, locked in, it's only going to stay that way until your life changes. As your life changes, your story changes. My story a year ago, before I decided I was done in the military, was different. I didn't know. I was barely in the beginning stages of being able to dream outside, putting my uniform on every day. My biggest dreams were what I was going to do with my 2.5 days of leave I earn each month. Not holy cow, I'm going to be able to do this every day full time. So it's a living document. Your why is too. Your why is going to change. Your story is going to change. I would encourage you, every time you get that deposit from NSA in your bank account, read over your story and update it and make sure that it's current. Be authentic. You can do this business and not be authentic, but it's going to be twice as hard on you. When I'm feeling insecure, or if somebody makes me nervous, like maybe they're on my chicken list or something like that, like I don't want to share my own story. It's hard to be vulnerable around people that make you nervous, but keep in mind, when you're dealing with other human beings, they're looking for your vulnerability. So vulnerability is the first thing that we look for in other people, but it's the last thing that we want to show ourselves. So by you taking that step forward and sharing your story and being vulnerable, that is going to allow them to take their armor off and be vulnerable with you and tell you what's really going on in their lives. And this really has impacted me recently. Like, I've been in this business for almost 3 years, but I made Christy I didn't make her do anything, but I asked her to do a 3-way call with my aunt, right? So she gets on there, she shares her story with my aunt, and my aunt starts telling her all this stuff. I've known her for 34 years and I didn't know it. And I was like literally just sitting there like, how did I not know this stuff? But Christy led with vulnerability, and therefore my aunt returned it. It's crazy. Try it. It works. All right. So when you're sharing your story, if you're somebody that, for instance, like Amy Spencer, the other day on one of our Zoom trainings, she said that she was on the products for 3 years before she took Christy serious about the business. That is not something that you necessarily want to share in your story, because once again, it's not duplicatable and it's not going to grow your business. You don't want your future team members to wait to have a product story. And I'm not saying that Amy wasn't sharing that in a story training, but I'm not saying to lie about it either. It's just something that you don't want to put in your story because it's not duplicatable. If you have to sit here and wait for everybody to have a product experience, then your business is not going to grow fast. So also know your audience. And this is the best part of this company. I just think it is so amazing because we have such amazing people on our team. For instance, Bridget has 4 children, and she's constantly, look, Miss Melody is joining us now. She's constantly with the kids or doing something for the kids. Like, I don't know that I've ever seen her by herself on Zoom ever. There's either one child and they multiply when you blink, but there's always kids there. So I remember being at a conference or a boot camp and listening to Courtney O'Donnell's story. And Courtney O'Donnell has 5 kids, and she's a national marketing director now. But I was listening, I remembered her story where she said she was literally hiding in her closet in the middle of the night, coaching her team to make it to NMD because her husband wasn't supportive and the days were for her children, and she was personal training people, just busy, busy, busy. So when I met Bridget and I saw what her everyday looks like, I was like, oh my goodness, I need to get her connected with Courtney O'Donnell. because I have one child, a full-time job. There's 2 adults, 1 child. So like my story probably won't resonate with Bridget as far as it comes from the children aspect. So know your audience. If you're talking to a stay-at-home mom, they're not going to want to hear about your big corporate job and your big corporate paycheck. That's not going to relate to them. So that doesn't mean you can't talk to them. You're the connection. You connect them with somebody who will resonate with them. So, and if you're talking to a corporate leader, then, and you're a stay-at-home mom, you're going to want to connect them with somebody that they can see themselves in, somebody that, is easy for them to imagine as themselves. I can't imagine myself in Bridget's place with 4 children and like 5 pets. I think she's superwoman, and I tell her that all the time. I don't know how she does it because she's always calm, cool, and collect. So know your audience, and know if your story is not going to make sense to them, that's where you start building your story library. Your Elizabeth Bossy, she has an amazing story about her baby girl Harper and how she came to be. I have not struggled in that area. I've not had a child myself. So that's not something, pregnancy is not something that I could talk about. That wouldn't be authentic for me to sit here and say that I could. But what I can do is I can get my friend Elizabeth on the phone with my potential team member or customer, and she can share her story. So know your teammates, and know that I have not reached out to a single person on this team and had them say, no, they won't help me. Okay. So be vulnerable, reach out, know your audience, know a team member that has a story that will resonate with them, and then connect the 2. All right. So we have 12 minutes left. I'm going to open you guys up to questions, or if you have issues with your story or you want help with your story, let's do it. I'm unmuting all of you.
Frost is chili.
Well, I tried to unmute all of you, but some of you muted yourself back. Questions?
I have a quick question. So, Ashley, you helped me with my story the last time, and like I literally built on that story. But something that I still struggle with is bringing my business story into it. And I love the way that you said that talk about your business story first and then go into your product story. Because in my mind, when I'm talking to people now, I'm introducing the business first before I'm even introducing the product. So that's, I guess, in a way, what would be the best way to incorporate that into the stories?
So I would just look for your opening, and a simple line is, hey, this may not be for you, and maybe it could help somebody that you know, but I stumbled upon this business, insert business story here, right? And then when they're like, oh, actually, that sounds very interesting. Great. You set up your next appointment, like GoPro says. Great. I would love to send you some more information. We have this video. It's called A Freedom Revolution, and it breaks down both the products and the business. If they're interested in either one of those, that has information on both sides. So if I sent this to you, would you be open to watching it? And then you send them that and then follow up. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
So let's hear your business story.
That I need to work on, because it's funny because with everything going on with my business and where I am now from where I was when I first even joined the business and why I joined the business, to me, this business has been more of a personal development for me than anything. But not everybody's interested in just the personal development. But for me, the personal development is what is bringing in the paycheck, as crazy as that sounds. So that's something that I struggle with.
Well, I will tell you, I was not interested in the personal development. I would have probably told you that I was personally developed enough. I was pretty full of myself. But I don't know that I don't know anybody that has come to this business for the personal development. It's just this amazing side effect of the community and the mission that we have. It has grown me so much as a person, as a mom. Like, I'm so thankful that Christy put up with my stuff the way she has the last 3 years, because like I literally would not share anything personal about myself. I thought I didn't want anybody to know I was struggling, and I was struggling every single day. I've always been an athlete, so I was struggling with not just my injuries, but the pain and refusing to take all these pills that the military pushed at me, and struggling with weight gain, and it just made me feel like less of a person, less of a soldier. And because I wasn't open to being vulnerable, I isolated and ostracized myself from other people who might be dealing with the same thing. And so by having to share my story, because Christy loved to put me on spot in front of strangers and make me cry in front of rooms full of people. And I have 5 older brothers, and like military career, I'm not a crier. I'm not comfortable crying. And then Christy would put me on the spot, and I would just cry in front of all these people and try to share my story. But it was like every single time I did it, it got a little bit easier. I got a little bit better. And I'm telling you, I think it was better than going to therapy. So it was awesome. It was not awesome at the time. And I would question myself why I let Christy, why I did anything with Christy. But it was a truly amazing growing experience. And I can in turn, work with my team now that I have been through it myself. So if your story is not emotional to you, you need to start peeling those layers, because there's something inside all of you that has you here in this business on this mission. And you really need to discover that, because once you discover that, you're going to be, once you discover it and you start sharing it, you're going to be unstoppable. Any other questions?
I'm going to go around.
Sorry. Yeah, that answered my question. Sorry, Ashley.
You're fine. Bridget, you're working on your story. How are you feeling it's going? You're muted.
Can you hear me now? Yep. Okay, so I haven't even looked at my story yet because my life has been a little bit bonkers. So I'm hoping that nap time may come into play today and I can actually look at it because I'm falling behind the curve in regards to trying to make these meetings and not have my littles be crazy. So that's my struggle in regards to the storyline and everything. I think my problem is I don't lead with the business because for me, my story is with that one right behind me. She's been struggling to eat for the last 6 years. She only eats about 6 things. And so when I seen a post about, I don't know if you guys know Amy, but when I seen Amy's post on Facebook, I was like, hey, what is this? And so when she told me about it, I was like, oh my God, an epiphany went off. And I was like, why have I not heard about this sooner type thing? And it's been a godsend. We have not had one leg cramp in the last, how long have we been taking it? 3 months. And I mean, she asked for cucumbers the other day. Big win. I mean, big win, because this kid only wants junk food. So my thing is I'm passionate about my story right now because it's how it's helping my family. I don't have a business story yet.
As I was telling you guys, Supermom here, you blink and then another one pops up. Thank you, Bridget. Betsy, you're relatively new to the business, right?
Yeah, I got in the business in November.
Awesome. So how are you working on your story?
I think I have an okay product story. It bases around my running, because that's like, I guess why I started to take it, is to feel better when I was running rather than being in aching and pain and hobbly old lady after running. But so like, I think that part is okay, especially if I'm more with people who want to be fit or want to hit that point. So I think product story is okay. And I'm okay with doing that. And that's what I usually lead with, because I don't feel my business part is as strong. Because I don't have very many customers right now. And I don't know if I just haven't found, my niche, how I connect with people, just because right now my connection for business is, a military spouse, we move, I'm a former teacher, I'm a nanny right now, where things are always changing. I want something to take with me that's not going to change. So that's kind of my point with it for right now.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And your business story is going to continue to grow, just like your product story will. All right. So November, you've only been in this business a couple of months. Once you start growing a team, you'll really see it develop. And that's why it's very important to revisit these stories and update them as you grow. And especially like when you're excited about it, because what's exciting today, a couple weeks from now, it gets smaller and smaller on our radar. And then eventually we end up moving on to whatever is exciting then. So if you're doing it, especially when you're getting paid, you're having that income experience, and of course your business is going to continue to grow and grow bigger, you're going to be excited and updating it then. So Carly asks, what tips would you give to build our business stories? Well, build your business stories by building your businesses. Be fearless. Grow into a business that, that you can see lasting you a lifetime and providing for your families. Once again, if you don't feel like your business story is where it can attract people yet, we have a ton of team members that have different business stories. Christy made it all the way to the top of the business. She's a national marketing director. It is definitely possible. We have stay-at-home moms in this business that are doing it. We have active duty service members. My whole team is military. Like, I think my whole team is either in the military or was in the military. So like you find the person that fits whatever it is that you're trying to, whoever you're trying to communicate to. Like, for instance, I just added, one of my team members just added a brand new representative yesterday, and she's a school teacher. So I would love to connect her with Betsy, who was a former school teacher. So you can, talk about how you work this business as a teacher, we have yoga instructors, everything. I'm missing something. Absolutely would love to have a business story event. So, all right, our time is up, everybody. Thank you for participating. And I hope you have a wonderful morning in Hawaii and afternoon to everybody else. Bye.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks, Ashley. Good job.